Hello everybody and welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to be making a prop from one of my favorite TV shows when I was really young called Space, 1999. In the shows, they had these cool weapons called stun guns. And this show came out in 1977, around the same year Star Wars came out. I was 14 years old and I was losing my mind, so I had two things. I had a TV show and a movie I both fell in love with that was sci-fi. So today we're going to make the pistol, the iconic stun gun from Space 1999. If you guys are ready, let's get started. All right, here it is. This is the stun gun from Space 1999. Like I said, I put ahead and put this on poster board, so I'm gonna cut this out. And now you guys can see, this is very simplistic because I didn't need, this is gonna be a handle. This is a piece that goes to the bottom, so I didn't need that. This is a separate piece, so I took that off. So we're just gonna get the main shape of the body. There we go. We have 1-inch foam, EVA foam. It's 1 inch thick. We're going to lay this bad boy down and trace this right on here. We use a Sharpie. All right. We got that all cut out. Now, here's the shape of the gun. Now we're going to go ahead and take this under the bandsaw, which unfortunately is off camera. So I'm going to cut this out very carefully on the bandsaw and we'll be right back. There it is, all cut out of the 1 inch EVA foam. The next step is in this blueprints. It's always good to have two copies in. It has a taper. You can see the front, but the front has a little bit of a taper to it. So I went ahead and cut that out, like so. There, it just has to, you can see it just needs to come down a little bit on both sides. Just a slight taper. So hold on, I'm going to take this under the belt sander. I'll be right back. All right, there, as you guys can see, kind of belt sand down. It's a little rough, so what I'm gonna do is I got a majority of it off. I want to make sure it's even. Got my 80 grit sanding stick. I'm going to just sand this down just a little bit. Just what I'm gonna do is I want to make sure I get everything nice and level. So I'm just gonna do this. Other side, same thing. Now I'm gonna go back in with some 220. This 220 is smoothing out the grooves I made with the 80. The 80 got a majority of the foam off, but I'm making sure that I just go back with the 220 to kind of smooth out the grooves a little bit. Now I'm going to sand with 320. Let's get a sanding drum. I'm going to take a sanding drum to kind of round off the edges. Oh, I just realized the sanding drum was kind of going a little vicious at it, so this is pretty soft, so I'm going to go back and replace this with a stone bit, so I can just kind of smooth everything out and just go a little bit lighter because it was taking too much off too quickly for me. On the grinding stone, this flathead you can only go so much because it has a hard edge and you don't want to make any grooves and things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out. I have different bits. I have a round bit, and you guys can see here this bit here, the round bit, and so sometimes it's good just to get in here and soften things out. I just want to get a little bit more defined. Because on the design, they're very subtle and not big, but they are there. So I just want to make sure I get them in there. So I just want to clean up the stuff in between them. They look kind of... Now our next step is I'm going to take the torch right here, and I'm just going to heat just... I don't want to heat the whole thing. I'm just going to hit this area right in here to get rid of the scratchy lines looking here. I know it's hard to see on video, but it actually worked. It looks great. It smoothed everything out. Nice. There you go. All right, that looks good, looks good. All right. So now, again, I'm going to take the torch. This is starting to come together. So now, let's move on to, there's a detail piece right here. You guys can see that. And you can see from the front, it's narrower and smaller. So I'm going to make this out of a thinner foam. Follow that line. All right. And you can see in the blueprints, again, this is what's so great to have in a copy. It sits on it, but it sits a little bit back. You don't, it doesn't go on, this doesn't go on flush. It kind of goes just back just a little bit. Make sure it's nice and straight. Ah, it's awesome. Now there's some details on the side. You guys can see right here, this is detail. And again, you can see how far they stick out. Yeah, it looks almost like 4 millimeter. Yeah, this will work. I got this tube. This is perfect. There we go. Now, we have the trigger on the top of the gun, which we have the original pattern here. Let's cut this out so it tapers back just a little bit. So we're going to grind that in there, but let's get a sanding drum. Line it up. To get the placement of these guys is here. This is the front of this guy right here. We'll take an X-ACTO blade. We'll go ahead and cut these guys out so I'll get the exact placement. Placed it like on here on this. All right, there it is. We got the majority of the stun gun plotted out. What I ended up doing is, since I went ahead and put this on poster board, I went back in with the X-ACTO blade and cut all the detail out that I know I'm going to need, which makes it really easy. And I realized I should not have glued these little side things on, so I went ahead and cut them off so that I could allow myself to lay this down and go back in with a ballpoint pen to trace where all the detail is going to go. And these little triangles, I decided I'm going to cut those guys out of 2mm foam, which are right here. And again, for the barrel, we got the 4mm foam, a sharp brass tube all the way through. Got my little metal, push it through, and there is our barrel. So my plan I'm thinking about today is that I'm going to go ahead and glue the barrels onto the little squares, little 2mm squares first. Glue those guys on there first, and then we'll proceed to glue them on the front of the stun gun. We have the barrels done, but before we glue this on, let's go ahead and focus on the side details now. These all roughly about the same size. So I'm going to cut a strip of black 2mm foam, the same width of this. We have all our small detail parts cut. Let's go ahead and start to glue them on. There we go. Excellent. As you can see, all the detail is on here. The black here, I'm going to do this with paint. The top of the gun, that's the switch. It actually slides forward and back, and it can go from kill to stun. And I'm going to make this out of styrene plastic. I was just looking at this gun over, I realized one thing I forgot to glue on is this part right here. That's the part on the bottom of the gun. Oops. And there it is. That's awesome. All right, now we're going to move on to the switch at the top. This is going to be made out of styrene plastic. I cut the part right here. This is the top. That's our width. I plotted everything out there for the exact size. So we're going to do the sides right here, which I have some styrene strips. I have some Weldon number 3 in this jar here, and I'm just going to drip it on the styrene. Tell you what, before we do this stuff is high solvent content. You don't want to get this on your skin, so excuse me when I put some rubber gloves on. Got my Weldon. How this works, it's water thin. And then drop the piece on top of that. Perfect. What that does, it melts the plastic together. Drop it on. So again, this strip I would put on the top like this. There we go. The cool thing too, also, this little lip will help me when I make the button that fits in here. A little piece of plastic will drop in here so it will slide. But the back has to stay open. We can't glue it off yet until I actually make the button. So now we're going to move on to making the button. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and make a button out of the Sintra. Come on, cut. Oh, there. This needs to be glued onto a base itself. And the base needs to be just as wide. And I will go ahead and proceed to get this prepped. And we're going to seal this up with a creature cast. There it is. It's been coated with creature cast. One thing great about creature cast is that I put it on pretty heavy. I mixed up a thickening agent and I put on like about 3 or 4 coats pretty heavy. And there were some imperfections in it. And I actually went back in with sanding sticks, I was able to sand that stuff down. So that's one thing great about Creature Cast. Now, we are going to paint this, but before we do that, let's move on. You guys can see here in the, on the plans there, that this is the I made of plastic that's going to go on the top of the gun, and a little sliding mechanism. This is great, and the graphics right here, you guys can see, Stunning Kill. Before I cut this out, I want to protect this. So I'm going to use some packing tape, and then take the packing tape, I'm going to put that on top of the paper, Xerox copy. The one thing about the packing tape that's really great is it puts a protective film on the copy so this doesn't get worn out or scratched. Tell you what, let's cut it a little bit big for now because I want to see how it fits in there first. We'll cut it to size. Let's see, that should slide right in there like so. As a matter of fact, I should have made that bigger. I should have cut that a lot wider. How are we going to put this in here? Tell you what, we'll come to that later. On the edges of my styrene plastic, when I built this, there's some little bits of grooves. So I went ahead and took some glazing spot putty, ladled it in there, let that dry. So I'm going to sand it down. We have this. I'm going to lay this right dead center of the poster board. Yeah, I'll tell you what, let me get some, I'm going to get some spray 77. I've got some Super 77. I'm going to dust this very, very lightly. I'm going to lay this down. All right, perfect. And now I can lay this on here dead center. It's mounted there. Let's go ahead and just do one more extra step. We'll lay packing tape on top of that. We drop our cardboard in like this. Put my switch on top of that. Oh, look at that. You go kill. Stun. Okay, now our next step is we're going to start doing some masking. Originally, this is black. This is already black. The Creature Cast is black. So, and this handle is going to get a lot of wear and tear. So I actually want to keep the original black we have on this. And we're not going to paint this. I'm going to mask this off when we paint this silver. And since this is right here, this will make a good template. That is our guideline for masking. Cutting on the tape. To mask off the trigger. The same thing now. This is the sliding mechanism, and even though the paint goes on really thin, I don't want any paint on this, so I just want to paint this button. So I'm going to mask off the rest of this as well too. All right, everything is properly masked off. We're ready to go. The next step is we're going to go outside. I'm going to paint this with my this is basically the Krylon metallic. Again, if you guys can get you can use Tamiya, you can use anything, whatever paint. This is unfortunately what I have around the house, but I like this because it's dull aluminum. This is silver, but I don't want it to be too bright, so I want it to be a little bit dull. So this is going to be perfect. So again, I'm going to put this on, but very lightly, not too heavy, because it is enamel and it will crack. So I want to make sure I just put this on very lightly. So we'll go ahead and paint all these parts, and I'll be right back. Wait, just before I paint, I just realized something I wanted to share with you is that we know that the plastic stun gun part is going to go up here. So if you paint this and put glue on it, the glue will snap off because you're just putting glue on the paint. So you want to make sure that you do not paint the part where you're going to glue. So I'm going to make sure. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I want to make sure that when we glue this down, there's a glue contact between the plastic part and the actual Creature Cast itself. All right, now we have that done. Let's go ahead and paint. There it is, all painted, silver, which looks great. I just realized something, which I should have put holes in here. Originally, when I was building this, I would take a wood burner, and since I just put it on here, and I realized I could still do that. So I went ahead and got my wood burner fired up. There you go. Okay, that's much better now with the barrels. Let's go ahead and start taking the tape off. Now, let's start with the Tamiya. This is the semi-gloss black. All right, our next step is we're going to start painting colors on the side of the gun. If you look in your plans, is that you can look at the colors. You can see it's a red, yellow, green, and blue on the sides. So that's what we're going to glue it onto. But our next step is this is the cardboard. is going to slide in like this, as you can see. But how I'm going to do is I'm going to take a very lightly, I'm going to spray some 77 on this, very lightly. We're going to drop it in and push it down so keep it from sliding. So you can see it slide in like this. Get all the way in. Push it down. Go ahead and cap this off. I'm going to put a little thin piece of plastic right here. We're going to glue the stun switch on here. Here we go, line everything up. There it is, the stun gun from Space 1999. Again, this show made such a huge impact on me when I was a kid. And the cool thing about it, it goes from stun to kill. TV show started in it was actually the same year Star Wars came out. I was 14 years old, loved the show, and loved it so much. And again, this motivation behind building it was from my friend John, the modifier, here on Twitch. He's a great help to me on my patterns on my store. So if you guys, speaking of patterns, you should go to my website, eviltedsmith.com, and get some patterns. And speaking of patterns, you can get the pattern of this. Watch this video and build this gun with me. This was a blast making it. And again, everybody, if you're watching this video is from my live streams I do every Monday and Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And while you're at my website, don't forget to shop to my links. Every little bit helps, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for watching me make this cool gun from Space 1999. And again, if you people don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. It's a great show from the 70s. I loved it as a kid. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. And I'll catch you back next time right here on Evil Ted Live.